about face frame cabinets and European cabinets. This is something people ask me about all the time. So I'm going to explain the differences and the pluses and minuses of both. This kitchen happens to have both styles. So to begin with, this is a traditional face frame cabinet. This is the way cabinets would have been made 50, 60 years ago, when a carpenter would basically build shelves on the wall, and then, because the shelves were usually a fairly rough material, they'd put a little frame around it and hang doors on it, much like they would hang doors on a door opening. It's the same sort of hinge. This is the way they used to build cabinets. It is difficult to mass produce, so a more modern way of building cabinets is what's called a European cabinet or cabinet hinge. And this was sort of came out of Europe in beginning of the 1920s in the Bauhaus movement, the idea of industrializing form and function and making mass-produced cabinets available to the masses. So they came up with an idea of getting rid of the frame and having the hinge screw right to the side of the cabinet. So this is a European style cabinet, and these are European style cabinets down here. And the hinge is right on the door, or I should say the hinge for the door is screwed right to the side of the cabinet, and there's no frame around the cabinet. So this is called European or frameless or 32 millimeter. And this is basically the style of cabinet, for example, that IKEA adopted for their mass production cabinets. And it's very easy, all the European cabinets come like this. A third style cabinet, which is kind of a hybrid, it's a face frame cabinet. This is just a sample one. There's a little, there's a frame around the cabinet, but the door is attached with a European style hinge on the face frame. This is a way that a lot of American cabinet producers came up with to mass produce cabinets, but at the same time use the European hinge. So it's kind of a hybrid between a European style hinge and a face frame cabinet. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the advantages and disadvantages of these three styles of cabinet. The old school traditional cabinet with a frame and a kind of a door hinge, it looks very decorative, but it's difficult to mass produce, it's expensive, and the frame itself, if you were going to do a whole bunch of cabinets, takes up a fair bit of space. So you lose space, it's more expensive, it's more complicated to build, and the other thing is, in terms of hardware, you can't integrate a lot of the modern European cabinet hardware onto these old hinges. The other thing is, the doors themselves, wood will always warp and change, and you don't have the adjustability that you have with a European style door, where these hinges can continuously be adjusted. So a year from now, if there's a little bit of warp in the doors, you can always adjust the hinges to make it look flat and put it back in order. So the disadvantage of a face frame is it's more expensive, you lose space, you're more restricted in terms of the hardware, and you don't have the adjustment and fine-tuning that you have on these European hinges. The European style frameless cabinet, there are a lot of advantages to this style of cabinet. First of all, if you look in here, there's no frame around here, around the edge of the cabinet. You can see the side of the cabinets are essentially the frame that everything is attached to. And that gives you a lot more space. It's much more economical to mass produce, and you get a lot of interesting sort of European fancy cabinet hardware which integrates with the frameless cabinet. The other advantage is there's a great deal of adjustment. So wood is warping, your house is shifting. If you install a kitchen a year after it's installed, you're going to have to adjust all the doors just to fine-tune it to compensate for the fact that even changes in the weather and moisture. And these you can continuously adjust. So even a year later, you can come back and just turn a few screws and line all the doors and drawers up again, which is a big advantage of this sort of cabinet hardware. This third one, this kind of hybrid or mongrel, I don't really like it because it's kind of the worst of both worlds. You don't get, because you've got the face frame, the door on top of the face frame, it tends to be an overlay system where the door rather than sitting flush with the frame, inside of it sits on top, so you don't get the kind of elegant, clean lines that you get with a traditional face frame. And the hardware, this particular European style hinge, because it fits on the edge of a frame rather than hooks into or goes into the back of the cabinet, or the side of the cabinet, it doesn't give you all the functionality that you have with the traditional European hinge, which is designed for a frameless cabinet. So these don't work as well. It doesn't give you all the options that you have with a proper frameless cabinet, and I don't think it looks as good. You lose a lot of space because you've got frames all the way around which take up space, and it's still more expensive to manufacture than a frameless cabinet. So this one I would sort of stay away from. This I think is a kind of, as I said, a hybrid between a European style hinge and a face frame cabinet. I don't think it's very good. So what I recommend to people generally is, if you want a face frame cabinet, I would suggest using this kind of traditional face frame on decorative pieces of furniture, maybe in a living room, not for a whole kitchen because it's not terribly practical and it's more expensive when you lose space, but it will look nice on a one-off decorative piece of furniture to do a traditional face frame with a traditional hinge. The European style hinge, the overlay cabinet, I think is much more functional for a whole kitchen. And if you want, which is what I've done here, if you want to get a face frame look on a European style hinge, what you can do, this one has little built-up trim pieces around the edge, which are basically added onto the cabinet afterwards, that give it a little bit of a kind of European style, or I should say face frame look, even though it's a frameless European style cabinet. The one other thing too, I mean, if you notice on the frameless cabinet, you also get the nice flush surface because everything lines up that you do on the face frame, although you don't have the frames all around. But you get a much flatter, nicer, even surface between the doors and the drawers than you would on this style of integrated face frame and European hinge. Because here you get the bumps, you'll get the door will sort of go down and the next door will come up, so it's sort of a really sort of unattractive, not very nice looking surface. So the one thing I'm going to do now, I think I'm just going to show you the European hinge and show you some of the hardware that comes with it. So here we are, and this is the little bottom of the cabinet. So you can see that I've got the sort of face frame look by adding little bits of trim, although these are all European style frameless cabinets. So it's got a little bit of a face frame look. And we come down here and you can see this is what the hinge for the European cabinet. You can see that the hinge is attached right to the inside of the cabinet. There's no frame. The actual edge of the cabinet is, or the frame is the edge of the cabinet. And you can see on these hinges you can get all kinds of accessories. These ones have little soft close bumpers, which is a nice touch you can get on all this European style cabinetry and hinge system, which you don't get on a traditional face frame, and it doesn't really work very well on the sort of hybrid system either. Here we've got the drawers. Nice thing, you get a lot of space for the drawers. You notice that the edge of the cabinet and the edge of the drawer comes right out, so you're really maximizing your drawer space. And you can see how close that drawer is to the edge of the cabinet. So that's about it. So I hope that's helpful. Okay, bye.